The ones that are surviving cannot take on more market share. And the ones that failed exited the market. So now there's a whole segment of that industry that is underserved. And my clients, your clients, the ones that are thriving, they're going to go get that market share. So through downturns, if you're prepared, you grow.
Today's guest is going to blow your mind because let me sum this up. What if you went out and you made it your mission to interview successful entrepreneurs, but in these interviews, you learned what their success was, what their failures were, and how they have rocketed to success. And what if you did that for 15,000 entrepreneurs? Do you think you'd learn a couple things? Well, my guest today, Claudio Gambin from GFG Consultants, did that, folks. And this is going to be wild. Claudio, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, man. I'm happy to be here.
So real quick, let's just start with what everybody's wondering, like, oh my God, what does this guy do? Well, he does consulting, but let's dive into that. It's such a broad word. You know, in coming into this, I'm going to be transparent. Coming into this interview, I get kind of a fact sheet and, you know, I saw advisor, and all this stuff. And instantly my guard goes up because I spent, 16 years in that world. And I don't fully believe in that world in its traditional capacity, because I just think there's a lot of truths out there that aren't told to business owners or individuals, whether it's through their CPAs or through their advisors. And when we got into this conversation, dude, you totally changed my perception, because you're doing something that less than 1% of all the consultants and all the advisors out there are willing to do. You're doing what everybody else is unwilling to do because it's not easy.
We built GFG Consultants really out of a complete gap in the financial services space. Because as I was building my wealth management business and my life insurance business, what I saw was two big gaps. One gap was there was no advice that was being given that was pure advice based, right? Like I would give you, Chris, advice in hopes you would buy a product from me.
Bingo.
That did two things. One, it led me to some biased advice, but two, on your end, you may not put as much value to that advice as possible because you may not be putting money towards it, right? So is the advice you're going to take. And two, there was a complete lack of communication in our clients' lives where they had a good CPA, they had a good attorney, they have a good banker or a good financial advisor, but those individuals, they were not talking, right? So the entrepreneur, the business owner was stuck in the middle trying to translate languages and communicate. So GFG Consultant was born out of that. So we said, you know what, we're just going to change the game. We're going to erase the sales model. We're going to come in and we're going to work on strategy first. Chris, we're going to focus on asset protection. We're going to focus on tax strategy. We're going to focus on financial planning, wealth management, overall risk management, legacy transitions. We're going to talk about all of that, and we're going to do it for a flat fee first. So that you know that I'm giving you advice that has nothing to do with whether you buy a product or invest money or do anything in that space. Don't get me wrong. I think there are unbelievable financial advisors out there. But at the end of the day, there is going to be some inherent bias there. And that's what we try to eliminate. And on top of that, we want to act as the head coach on the client's financial plan. So we're going to bring in their CPA, we're going to bring in their attorney, their banker, their insurance guy, their financial advisor, and make sure that all of those professionals are speaking the same language, working on the same plan, and they understand the direction the client's heading in, right? Because we were just talking before the show started about how maybe a CPA is going to do a great job and save you a bunch of money on taxes, but is that truly the best thing for you, right? If I depreciate and deduct and I show a zero income, but you need to go get a line of credit to go get some equipment, banks aren't going to talk to you.
So no way. And they will not, especially in today's world.
No. Did we do a good job? No, we just failed you, right? So that's what we talk that when it comes to vision, where the client is, where they're looking to go, we want to build a strategy to take them to the next level with their advisors.
But you didn't just kind of get this epiphany one night or in the shower. You actually said, you know what, in order for me to come up with this, the answers for this gap, I got to interview some people. That's an area most people don't want to go, which is awesome that you went there because you're doing what everybody else is unwilling to do. But what sparked that? Like, what made you want to take on such a big task?
It was fun. I'm a venture capitalist at heart. I love being a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur myself. So around 2013, I was kind of building up my book, and I took a study of my client base, and I really honed in on the clients that I enjoyed the most. Like, who are the clients that I love when they're calling me? Like, when my phone rings and it's this client, like, yes, I'm gonna pick up the phone, compared to like another one. I was like, oh, ugh, I don't know if I want to take that one. And they were entrepreneurs, like all of them, not most of them, all of them. So it was 2014. I said, you know what, that's it. We're only going to work with entrepreneurs. And as a financial advisor, every financial advisor, for the most part, hates working with business owners, because business owners are irregular cash flow clients. They don't necessarily have huge salaries and big 401ks to roll over, right? They're out there. But I enjoyed working with them. So for me to become the best version of the advisor that they needed me to be, I just needed to interview them. So 5 a week, 6 a week, in-depth fact-finding meetings. Tell me about the business. How'd you get here? How'd you get started? What are the biggest challenges you face? What are the biggest wins you face? What do you attribute them to? How much money did it take? Let's talk about your balance sheet, your P&Ls. What tax strategies are you using? I mean, it was 90-minute sessions of just learning. And what happened is we developed an expertise. So we would learn from a client, and this one strategy, something that they're using. And I'm like, well, why isn't every single one of my clients using that strategy? So then when we would package it, make it presentable down to an elementary level so that clients can truly understand it, and then present it to them and help them implement those strategies. And 8 years later,
Claudio, one of the cool things you said there, and I want everybody listening to this to really hone in on this. He was a student. He put himself in a student capacity in interviewing all these entrepreneurs. And through all those hours and all that learning, he became the teacher. There's not an entrepreneur out there that doesn't think in the terms of cash flow and money every single month. So if they're investing money and they don't have a lot, because an entrepreneur primarily invests in their business and in their knowledge to further their business. Marketing is more important than putting money in a 401k. And that's not what most advisors want. So you're absolutely correct. Most advisors see you and people like me as a major threat, because we stand in the way for that next commission. We stand in the way to that advisor keeping the client or getting fired. And not only that, CPAs, we talked, are the worst, because most CPAs just work in a little square box. No disrespect to CPAs, but they do 1040 tax returns for traditional W-2 employees, and they get used to that. Well, these are the standard deductions. And the one thing you said, Claudio, that I thought was wild is the Augusta Rule. And if none of you know what the Augusta Rule is, he might tell you, but just Google it. It's not hard to understand. It pertains back to golf, and then it kind of became the Augusta Rule. And I just thought of the Augusta Rule as just being the standard thing that every CPA would make mention to their entrepreneurs, because number one, the shit's fun if you figure it out. Number two, it allows you to do some really neat things and get tax deductions and not have to pay tax on income. Yeah. But you said very few CPAs know about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of CPAs are still stuck in like writing off your home office, right? Where you take a square footage of your home office compared to your home, and that's the calculation they do. But they don't even know it exists. And it just blows my mind, which, somewhat I'm thankful for, because I guess that's why I have a job.
That's true.
And that's the thing. And as we're kind of talking through this, for any advisors, financial advisors that are listening, and you guys are thinking through your own practice, just as a golden rule, if you're going to work with business owners, there's one golden rule. The best investment a business owner can make is in themselves. And if you can get that client to understand that and help them with that, you're going to win that business every day. It's not investing in Apple. It's not investing in Tesla. It's not investing in a spider index fund. It's investing in their business. It's investing in themselves. They're their own best ROI. So sorry to digress. I had to mention that because
No, it's very important.
that's how we start every new client meeting, is like, we're here to help you, not me. We're going to invest in you, right? But yeah, the CPA space, the first question we ask any client about their CPA is, hey, do you have a good relationship with your CPA? And the general answer is yes. And I say, okay, well, how often are you meeting with your CPA before the year is over to discuss taxes? And the general answer is never, never. I go, well, if you're meeting in January about your taxes, you're talking about history, and there's nothing you can do to change history. So we have to be proactive. We got to talk about the future, and there's so much that you can do to change the future. So if you're not having a meeting with your CPA October, November about your overall tax exposure, you're really shooting yourself in the foot.
What did you do prior to being an advisor?
I'm a unique bird. This is all I've ever done.
That is
So
unique.
I went out of college, and I grew up really poor, paid my way through college, and I was running out of money, didn't have any more student loans to get, and I needed some more credits. So I took a paid internship with a financial services company and did very, very well and just stayed. And that was my introduction to the financial services world. And that's how I became a financial advisor at the ripe old age of 22.
And what was it that, like, what did you see? What happened? Or was it just kind of organic how it happened with the clients you were working with?
It's a little bit of luck, right? Just because I had this thought, and then I just kind of followed through with it. And then I also had a really good coach. I had a really good business coach. I've had two unbelievable business coaches in my career. One was Jason Selk, who wrote a book called Executive Toughness. Awesome, awesome individual. And the other one's Ben Newman. And Ben Newman was a financial advisor, became more of a business coach, life coach. And Ben really helped me think through activity and what I can control on a daily basis, and what does a daily win look like. So it was a combination of finding who I truly enjoyed working with, right? Who I really found a lot of joy in, and also managing my day from a controllable aspect. So every single day, I remember like it was yesterday, the suffering of cold calls, but I would make cold calls until I set 3 new meetings every single day. And I would reach out to clients and LinkedIn, and I would just scour pages to try and find 3 referrals every single day. And that's what we did for 5 years. And it wasn't any one single day that led to success. Like you said, it was just the consistency of showing up and winning one day at a time.
We're at the end of a long-term debt cycle. We're at the end of, past the short-term debt cycle. Then all of a sudden, the Fed, at the early meetings that they did, decided, because of inflation going out of control, which, surprise, surprise, you print $5 trillion, you take everybody and you stick them in their house and you say you can't go anywhere. And then you make them buy things and they have a disposable income. What do you think was going to happen? Oh, and then a war happens overseas for one of our trade partners. Now, all of a sudden you cut trade off through sanctions. So all these things happen in light of everything else going on that's crazy in the world. And advisors and people out there still think this shit's going to keep going to the moon. They still think that crypto isn't correlated to the market, and that's going to be 120. I mean, how do you help the people that don't want to be helped because they're living a lie?
Well, let's keep in mind, right? My sample size of clients are business owners, entrepreneurs, and they're in the 15 to $50 million revenue size, right? That's my sample size. Stage 2 growth oriented companies in multiple industries. So we have, I believe, right? I could be biased here, but I feel like we have a really good pulse on predicting the future, because it tends to hit that stage 2 client first, right? So right now we're talking with our clients about preparation. Okay. So we've done this before as a country. Like we know what's likely to happen. If we press these buttons, this is going to be the result. We've pressed these buttons before, so we relatively know what that result's going to look like, and it's not good. Okay. What we don't know is the timeline, right? So when it happened before, it was a 7 to 15 year delay, right? But world today, globalized, information travels incredibly fast. So in my opinion, it's 3 to 5 years. I've read a bunch of economist reports, and I don't think economists ever get it wrong. They're just never on time.
There is no timing the markets.
Right. So they think 2026, 2027. I think that's a little aggressive. I think we have a relative runway for 2 years, which means we don't have a runway, which means I have to prepare my clients today, right? Because it takes 2 years to prepare. So we're having that conversation today. We're having that conversation on liquidity, on balance sheet. Like, how do we need to prepare your balance sheet? So the best thing we can say is, if you could picture your balance sheet and it was the perfect balance sheet and it's 2006 and you have a crystal ball, you know what's going to happen in 2008. How would you develop your balance sheet? How would you manage your cash flow? What decisions are you making today, knowing what's coming in 2 years? Plan for the worst, hope for the best, but it's not. Because plan for the worst, and if you make those decisions as a business owner, you are going to be so strong financially. Even if that doesn't happen, you're in a position to catapult your business, right? Because what are we doing? Let's just kind of talk tactical for a minute. Building up liquidity.
Yes.
Okay, we're building up liquidity. We're getting rid of depreciating debt, right? So if it's not leverage, right? Leverage is borrowing money to make money. Debt is borrowing money to spend money. So we're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of bad debt. We're getting that balance sheet item is going away. We're building up liquidity and we're honing in on expenses. So we're getting rid of the fat. We're not spending money because it's comfortable. We're spending money because we need it, right? That's the three-legged stool of what we're building for our clients. And then we're also putting in tools that are relatively consistent, right? So there's a bunch of financial tools out there that are non-correlated, right? So non-correlated liquid assets are a great place for you to be right now. So that's where we're positioning some money. What else are we doing? We're making tax decisions. We're making proactive tax decisions 3 years from now, because what's happening to taxes?
Going up,
right? Again, crystal ball. We know what's happening.
You don't need a crystal ball for that one. That one's an easy one.
But then we have a bunch of clients who are within 5 years of an exit. Okay. So we're like, let's take that exit. Let's bring it to 2 years from now.
Heck yeah.
Because if you can exit now and pay a 20% cap gain, or exit later for a little bit more, but pay a 40% cap gain, who really won, right? You just funded the government.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right now. And then furthermore, we're doubling down on their risk management. We're doubling down, reviewing their organizational structure. If they have a business partner, we are covering all the bases on the operating agreement, making sure that their dissolution clauses are okay. Because if we're business partners and I make a good financial decision and you make a crappy one and you go bankrupt and we don't have a good dissolution clause, I'm in trouble with you. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's what I talk through preparation for clients right now is we know what's coming. We see that cliff, right? It's like almost like you're paddling towards the waterfall. What are we doing? Are we building wings so we can fly away, or are we just gonna go for a dive?
I think that's all very relevant stuff, and a lot of relevant stuff that a lot of people won't tell their clients because there's no money in it for them, which is why you went to a flat fee strategy in a consulting strategy, because now you can be honest with the clients, tell them the hard things that really don't pay you. I mean, many of those things you just suggested make you zero, no commission, that doesn't, put money into, managed SMA accounts or anything else where he gets, his little ring up the, the 1.5%. None of those suggestions really check any of those boxes. but it's the right thing for the client.
All of the competitors, all of the financial advisor competitors were still out there preaching, I can get you a 15% return.
Oh, yes, dude.
18%. But that's why when you read my bio and you said financial advisor, you did what? You put your wall up.
Yeah, I did, man. And if we didn't have that little powwow before we came on, I probably would have had the wall up all the way until I understood what you were doing. I'm glad we did that, because I'm like, this guy's different. And you're calling out some of these hard truths, and the client starts looking at the advisor being like, hey, how come you never said that?
We made the decision to switch. And by the way, we went from a captive position before in a big mutual company to a fully independent position. And that decision came October of 2019. Okay. And I had the runway, financial runway, to build out my infrastructure, have the bench, the staff bench to deliver the value. And I had 8 months. Okay. 8 months. Well, what happened 6 months after October of 2019?
Yeah. The pandemic hit, the COVID,
world shut
whatever
down.
you want to call it.
And it was March, and I was like, I just like eradicated all of my revenue to go to the model, right? And I was like, what do I do? But it was a blessing in disguise, because people needed help then more than ever. So we like pivoted and we became experts at PPP, EIDL, and helping our clients. And we weren't doing it for them. We were helping them do it for themselves. So they became experts. And literally, Chris, business just, and 2020 was our best year ever in revenue. And again, I think I'm like a unicorn in that sense, because it was just like, I could have never predicted that. I could have never controlled that. But it was just like the good old adage is like, I just wanted to just drive value. I wanted to keep my clients' doors open, right? Let's go serve them where they need us. And referrals were just flowing in because we were driving so much value, and it just worked out.
That was a critical time when entrepreneurs needed a lot of consulting. And just like you said, it's funny you mentioned PPP and EDIL. Now, today we all look at that if you're an entrepreneur and like, oh, it's pretty easy. But remember when that first came out, when your business had just had a seizure and you're locked up, you got no revenue, you don't know how you're going to pay anything. Staff is starting to wonder, wow, are you going to be able to make payroll? And then all of a sudden, the government launches the PPP loans, right? The payroll protection plan thing. And all of a sudden you have to go to your bank and you have to fill out this thing. Now, I'll never forget that night, because I was panicking as well. I'm a business owner. And I remember 11 o'clock, the portal opens, and everybody had warned you, if you don't get in, it's going to run out. The money's going to run out. You're not going to do it. So you're rushing through this thing, which wasn't easy to do. They wanted documentation that not most business owners wouldn't just have right there in front of them. And then you're thinking, okay, this is the government. If I get this wrong, I'm going to get audited. At least this is what I'm thinking. And I'm going through this completely blind, stressed out. Then I hit the submit button and everything erases, and I do it again and it doesn't go through and it freezes. Like you with your clients, you're just guiding them through it. No, everybody's having the same issues. Don't worry about it. They're not going to run out of money. Like if it doesn't get done tonight at 11:30 PM, tomorrow morning, it's not going to end, like that kind of comfort would have really put my mind at ease. And I can't even think of how many other business owners at the same time were going through the same thing I was, but not your clients, because they were just calling you saying, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Like, should I be concerned? You're like, nope, we've already looked into this. It's happening all over the country. It's easy. We're going to guide you through it. And man, sometimes just that peace of mind in the right times is worth everything, even if it's the smallest piece of advice you can give somebody.
And we did, because we had time, right? We were shut down.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We studied the difference makers between what made companies going through 2008, right? Like survive, and then what made companies thrive, and what was the difference makers? Like what was what decisions were made that one company just simply kind of kept going, and other companies that did this. And we delivered that information to our clients going through some of the most difficult periods. And again, it was just a blessing to be able to deliver that and give them that peace of mind, to help walk them through that. And I can tell you, those clients are clients for life. And then it really kind of catapulted our business model to a different level, because again, we were serving them where they needed to be.
Eventually you started to be able to scale your business and build your business. We were talking about, your one house over by New Smyrna Beach, which is in Florida, folks. And if you're not a surfer, you might not understand the relevance of New Smyrna, but it is deemed one of the best surfing spots in all of Florida, hands down. And actually, some would argue it's the best surfing spot on the East Coast. But it also is riddled with sharks. More shark attacks in New Smyrna Beach than I think any other beach, maybe rivaled by Australia. And we were talking about his captain and some of the people that they go fishing with, and he's like, "Yeah, they've been bit by sharks. It's not a big deal." How many of you listening to this think that getting bit by a shark is like no big deal? You want to tell that story?
Yeah, I just they when I first met him, we were just kind of talking. He's like, yeah, "You surf?" Yeah, I used to be a professional surfer. Broke my back on a reef one, then I just retired. and I'm like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, a lot of sharks out there." Yeah, I got bit a couple years ago. Didn't take my foot off, but it hurt a little bit.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so relevant to COVID, right? It's like the shark attack of your business. It sucked. We survived, made us better for it. Now we know how to take this on. Yeah, man, it's so funny to those difficult moments and those growth opportunities rarely happen during good times, right? And I think that's what I think.
Dude, that's a cool parallel how you did that. Like in business, until something bad happens, like we fear the unknown. We're scared to death of that, and we try to avoid it. And it stunts our growth. It stops the business from getting where they need to get as fast as they could get there. But if you just get bit, like we did during COVID and the pandemic, like all of a sudden, like the sky's the limit. Like, oh, that's all that was. Like, all right, cool. Now you learned through the failure, which is where you talked, with your interviews. You interviewed all those people, but you didn't just talk about their successes. You talked about the failures. That's the shark bite. The failure is the bite. Most people survive shark bites. Very few people die from sharks. I know if you're watching Shark Week, you're like, no way anyone would survive that. Well, we're not swimming with great whites, idiots. Like they're tiger sharks, hammerheads. Like they don't rip you in half. Let's just put it that way. It's not what you see on TV, but it's still scary. And in business, like having an event like a COVID, having an event like an 08, it's scary to think about. But once it happens, you now know exactly how to prepare for it. And that's what you did. You got that knowledge and you just help people through that. And this is a very critical time. So folks, if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, you really owe it to yourself to sit down and talk to their team and find out exactly what it is that they can do to help you. If it's a 2-year runway, a 3-year runway, again, nobody can predict the time. You got a very short runway. So you're on an aircraft carrier with a plane that can't mess up, because if you do, you're going in the ocean. What do? Yeah. You find out the person that's done it before, and you figure out, what do we got to shed from this plane to make my odds and my probabilities of getting this thing off the end of the carrier? That's what I would do. And that's what you all need to do. And the answer is right here. GFG Consultants, look them up. And how do people get a hold of you to kind of find out more about what you do?
So right now our website, gfgsolutions.com. They can find us there. They can find us on Instagram as well, GFG Solutions. You can email me directly if you have a question, Claudio at gfgsolutions.com, and just reach out. I mean, if there's anything happening and you have a question, just reach out to us. We're happy to help. And our process doesn't start with money. I always like to tell our people that we want to make sure it's going to be a mutual fit process. So we want to learn about you and share with you about us. We go through an in-depth interview so I can really get to know you, formulate strategies, and then present to you what I think would make sense, and then serve you with our preferred engagement model. And then you can kind of sleep on it and make a decision on whether we're the right firm for you or not. There's absolutely no pressure. We actually have a rule that you can't make a decision same day. We always want our clients to truly sleep on it and really think about, because it's not just about the money, it's the time. We request a time commitment from our clients because we're only as good as the time you're willing to give us to do our jobs. And Chris, one more thing on that preparation. Why are we so hung up on preparing our clients for this next economic cycle? And I truly believe, okay, it's an ecosystem that if I can prepare them for the next economic cycle, I'll survive it too, right? Because they're going to stay with me. But here's the big piece. Through any of these economic downturns, there are companies that survive, there are companies that fail, and like we talked about, there's companies that thrive. Okay, and I want my clients to be the ones that thrive, because what happens, the ones that are surviving cannot take on more market share. And the ones that failed exited the market. So now there's a whole segment of that industry that is underserved. And my clients, your clients, the ones that are thriving, they're going to go get that market share. So through downturns, if you're prepared, you grow.
Yeah, folks, I'm just going to throw one business out there that most of you know that does this really well. It's called Warren Buffett in Berkshire Hathaway. That man is always preparing for the next cycle, and he's patient, super patient. When he gets bored, he starts buying his own stock back just because, hey, the best investment he can make is into his own self. Folks, he's preparing. Why are you not? Get on the line with them, book a call, and find out how they can help you. Man, this has been awesome. Totally different than what I thought it was going to be. So I really appreciate your time. I appreciate what you're doing to help people solve problems. And I appreciate you being the less than 1%ers out there actually doing what's right for your clients. Last question I have for you is, when someone engages you, do you take them out on the fishing boat?
No.
Do we get to drive that car behind you?
No, it's so funny. Fishing, I have this offline hack, because one of the things I love about fishing is, as much as I love what I do, I also love just completely disconnected. And when we're 50, 60, 100 miles offshore, no one can get a hold of you, not even if they tried. And one time we were tuna fishing, and we were pulling in like a big tuna. I mean, this thing was over 100 pounds. And all of a sudden the line just went limp. And all that came up was the head. I mean, we're talking about being scared of a shark. I think this thing must have been 13, 15 foot shark. I mean, the bite circumference was huge.
Wow. Lets you know how small we really are. And when you're 100 miles offshore with no one around to help you, you start really thinking, guys, let's not go in the water right now.
If you engage us and you come visit us here in Florida, yeah, we'll take you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks. We're going to put all those links in the description, folks. So you know how to get a hold of them. You know how to look at them and research them. And hey, in today's world, just go to Instagram. And again, what's the IG handle?
GFG Solutions. And we just launched a podcast as well called Invest the Difference. Invest the Difference
that
podcast. And it's talking tactically. We're not really kind of anywhere else. We're just delivering tactical knowledge, so that there's individuals out there that can't necessarily engage us, but we still want to deliver some good value.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well.
I think the strength of a true leader is when you sit on the board of a company and there are 20 people around the table and 19 people around that table are saying the answer is yes. And you know it's no.